The Missing Case of Kathy Perez. Kathy was playing with Cynthia in her father's boat. It was a rickety old thing, still made out of wood and encrusted with barnacles on both sides. Still, it was a favorite of hers. The California lagoon was a beautiful place to play. It wasn't overshadowed by the ocean, and the tides made it shallow enough to see through the crystal clear water as if it was made of glass. Her older sister, Cynthia, kept thrashing water in the boat and playfully splashing it across Kathy's freckled face. "You girls stop now. You'll scare away all the fish," Mr. Perez shouted, though not in any angry sense. "Cynthia's being a poo-poo head. She keeps splashing water on me," Kathy brassily complained. "Don't get too upset, Pumpkin. It's just water," he giggled back to the 7-year-old daughter. "Look, Papi, the water is really glittery today, isn't it?" Cynthia exclaimed, in a weird happiness over her recent discovery. Indeed, the water was a tad bit odd. The surface was alive and with striking gleam and specks of gold. It sparkled in the California sun as if angels had dusted the lagoon with various hues of wondrous glitter. "Yep, it sure is pretty today, honey," Mr. Perez said in a wide smile of nonchalance. "I'm going to catch a fish today, Dad," Kathy promised. "Ah, you stink at fishing, you little booger nose," Cynthia retorted, a bit jealous over her father's recent attentions. Kathy stood up and crossed her arms on the boat, giving her older sister the best stink eye she could muster. Cynthia challenged her with a push and sent Kathy falling into the lucid waters of the lake. Her father heard a plop as he was fixing worms to his fishing hook, and then instantly jumped in the water right after her. "Oops, I didn't mean to push her in," Cynthia cried now, scared that Kathy might drown. But Kathy was a great swimmer. She swam underneath the fantastic lagoon for a bit before finally surfacing, but when she did, the boat was gone. The water was oddly thicker, too, as if it was slightly heavier. Whatever the case, it made for easy swimming, and she cast a look across the long shoreline. She couldn't make out her father's boat or any other people. All she saw was a brightly colored beach ahead. Instead of the bay she knew, it was a pleasant hue of yellow and white. Kathy walked on the shoreline, clumsily stepping about, and saw a dozen bright blue fur balls with legs. On closer examination, they appeared to be a cross between dogs and lizards, but with the same canine friendliness of a puppy. In the distance, she saw strange flying creatures with feathers that looked more like tendrils of colored skin. She sat on the long beach and took a deep breath. From there, she called out to her father and sister. The sun seemed odd, too. It was split in two with a ring of cool blue encircling it. This was not such a bad place to be, she thought, but still it was not her home. In fact, she didn't know where she was. After a long while, she picked up a pear-shaped fruit of a pale orange color and tasted it. It had the flavor of both banana and cherry. She could see why the furry blue lizard things were eating them so heartily. "But no, this is not my home," she whispered, and Kathy yelled out to the calm waves again, "Dad! Dad! Cynthia!" But no sounds came back. None but the echo of her voice. On the surface. "By God, I can't find her," Mr. Perez screamed as he kept searching for his daughter. "It should be so easy. The water is so shallow and so very clear." Cynthia ran to the backside of the boat and cried too. She didn't know how to swim, yet Kathy did. Why wasn't she coming back? Her mind pondered in panicked puzzlement. That day the two of them kept searching until others joined, and when they stopped, still many others searched until Kathy was considered no more. 25 years later. Cynthia and her husband came home from visiting her father's grave. He died 2 years back, and his headstone was set not far from the gloom that they lost Kathy in. Gloom, she said. She'd often say lagoon, gloom. By now, she had her own daughter of 7 years, and she was eerily afraid to get close to the gorgeous lagoon, the lagoon that she lost her sister in. Even so, she felt that she needed to make the personal pilgrimage there as she had always harbored an incessant guilt that Kathy's disappearance was all her fault. "Hey, don't do this to yourself," her husband comforted her as he saw tears drip from his wife's face. "It killed him too," she softly wept. "Kathy's drowning. It killed my father's heart." Still trembling in her husband's arms, her daughter had come, racing towards them. "I caught a fish," she prided. "I really caught my first fish," she said. "And how did you do that, young lady?" her father asked. She just pointed towards the glittering lagoon and answered plainly, "Kathy told me how to. Can't you hear her calling?" The end.